Hello and welcome back to the Lost in Possession podcast. As you can see, it's all about England today. I'm wearing my England top, and with the deadline for Southgate squad selection fast approaching this Wednesday, we discuss who should be on that plane to Qatar. Roll the intro. Without further ado, let's kick things straight off. Let's go to the goalkeepers. What a start. We are all in exact agreement. Pickford, Pope, Ramsdale. And boys, for you, is it in that order?
Absolutely. I think, to be honest, if you do look at club form, then it wouldn't be. Or sort of what clubs are doing well and more clean sheets and stuff, you wouldn't be. But Pickford's deserved his place under Southgate for England. And I think he hasn't actually let us down yet, touch wood. So I think he's deserving the number one shirt.
Reece, any disagreements on that?
Nah, has to be Pickford first, most consistent. Pope, definitely a good second and a good reliable keeper. Ramsdale, still very erratic, still making silly mistakes, but when he's on form, as you saw against Leeds at the weekend, he does deliver the goods, and I think they're the best three we've got.
Totally agree. Well, there you go. Let's move straight on to the defenders. Now, this will be a big talking point. So there's a long list of defenders. We jokingly said Southgate, has the luxury of taking 7 right backs. However, all is not well in the right back position. Obviously, there's doubts. We know Reece James now. It's a bit of a race against the clock. Trent luckily came back at the weekend. We've got Walker, who might be sidelined. Talk me through, Reece, first and foremost. Talk me through your defence. What are you thinking? And I guess where's your controversial picks, would you say?
Yeah, I think I know a lot of us have sort of criticised Southgate in the sense that he says he picks players on form, not necessarily reputation or merit, but we've just done that with the goalkeepers anyway. We've picked Pickford first, but I think he needs to change his defence up a little bit. What he's brought in success, I understand, but as it's gone a bit stale, you need to freshen it up and maybe bring in a different player of ideas. Now, Alexander-Arnold has not been in the best vein of form this season, so I think you could suggest even dropping him even for the first game, because with the group we've got, and I think, you could probably slot Trippier in there at right back. I'm not sure what you guys think, but would you agree with a 3 at the back, 4 at the back, or?
Personally, for me, I would switch it up based on the game. So I think a back 5 makes more sense when we're playing a bigger opposition and maybe in the knockout rounds, because you need a bit more defensive structure and cover. For me, based on the group, I think it's a reasonable group. USA, Wales, and Iran. In those group games, for me personally, I'd be looking at a back 4. Just to touch on Trent, he's definitely been out of form, and obviously I've made my preference clear. I think, it's a real shame on my behalf, not just as a Chelsea fan, but as an England fan, to see Reece James potentially, ruled out. I've said before how I think he's got a perfect blend of all the defensive and attacking attributes. But I still think Trent, for me, definitely should be on the plane, no question. And I think the way up in a back 4 is do you go with Walker? Do you go with Trent? Walker more defensively sound, better at covering. Trent probably slightly better going forward and obviously can, score. So that's a bit of a debate for me. Trippier, I don't know what you guys think of Trippier. I don't put him in that same bracket as Reece James and Trent. He's consistent, but he doesn't stand out for me. Maybe I'm being harsh, but for me, the right back of choice has to be Trent or Walker, and given the current circumstances with James out.
I do think you're being a bit harsh. I do agree that he's probably down the pecking order though, but he's also got the versatility where he can play left back if needed to be. Sort of you've got to look at the other two we've all picked with Shaw and Chilwell. Both got injury problems. Like, if both of them get injured before the World Cup, which is probably, it's not that unlikely, Trippier can fit in there quite well. With the sort of right back situation and the sort of formation, it's a difficult one because I do agree with it. Some games you probably should do a 4, but with the World Cup, it's such a fast pace. You've got to be consistent. So I'm thinking trying to stick to one formation might benefit better. So I would probably go with a back 3, back 5, whatever you want to call it, because Trent then doesn't get exposed like he kind of has been shown in the Premier League. And it also gives Chilwell, Shaw, Trippier, whoever plays on the left, that freedom. And I think Walker can also cover in Trent's position when he's bombing on forward. And it just kind of allows it a bit more steady. And I think that's where it can sort of benefit the midfield to be a bit more aggressive anyway, having 3 at the back, maybe 1 sat in front, and then just the rest of the players are full on attacking, especially against like Iran, who you hope we should be beating, and beating sort of in a dominant format, maybe not convincingly, but we should be the ones creating all the chances and waiting for the goal. I think the centre-back roles, though, are the ones that are the more in doubt, because I know I might be a bit City biased, but I think Stones is the only one who is guaranteed to start. Maybe under Southgate, he probably might pick Maguire still, but I think if you ask most people, Stones is the only one that stays consistent. I might be wrong out of you two.
No.
Anyone?
I would agree with that.
I don't think he's the only consistent centre back, but for me, he ticks the box of played consistently at a good type team, and has also got the history at England. And I don't think any other centre back.
He's really grown, I think, as a player, and I would agree he's a starter in terms of the quality they've got there on choice.
That's what I meant by the consistency. If you pick your starting 11, if it's a back 4, back 5, I think Stones is one of the people at centre back that you always pick. That's what I meant by consistency.
Yeah,
rather than him actually playing.
Yeah.
Go on, I was going to say you did touch upon Maguire just now. All 3 of us have put him in the squads. Does he start for both of you? Does he start?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not for me. So I know I know he's got the history of England, and look, I'll be honest, I did defend him. Similar to Pickford, where you say, look, he's never put a foot wrong in an England shirt. And historically at the World Cup and Euros, he has stepped up. For me, what he did against Germany in the Nations League, he was in bad form. All the pressure was on. Southgate backed him. That was his chance to show, look, I can still do it in an England shirt, irrespective of my United form. And what did he do? He gave the ball away, then gave the penalty away, then made an error for another goal. So for me, that's kind of put the nail in the coffin in terms of starting. I still think he can add value. He is still, a big lump. He's a good old-fashioned centre-back. But for me, in a World Cup, you can't start a player who has not been in good form for, 6 months to a year. You absolutely can't. But, a few injuries come about. I wouldn't be absolutely against him coming on, to defend a lead, something like that. But for me, no chance he starts.
See, I'm finding it tough who to pick as the another centre back, because like I said, the back 5, so I'd have Walker, Stones, and then that last player. I think it's up for grabs, and on the ones I've picked, I'm still not like raving about any of them, because like I've got Cody there, who like I think he's been solid for Everton, but I'm still not convinced by him. Like I don't know what he's got to do. To be fair, it probably is a bit harsh by myself. Then I've got Dyer, who's been doing well for Spurs in a back 5, so he would be suited for that. And then I've also got White, but White's not even playing centre back. That's my issue. He's playing right back, obviously. But then if I've got Walker, I'm not having Ben White as the right centre back. That's the kind of thought process. So that's where I don't actually think there's many in my picks that actually stand out that much. So any of them could start.
All 3 of us have put White in, and I think in terms of form, particularly this season, Ben White is probably that left field shout. I personally think Southgate will stick with Maguire, which I think is a mistake, because how is he supposed to learn and improve himself if he's constantly playing? You've got to drop him to teach him a lesson, right? So I personally think White would be
United, doesn't he?
Exactly. I think that's the thing. He's not even playing for United. I think White would be a good shout, because I think he'll offer that stability there for the other players around him. John Stones has been a solid centre back, but I like to think that John Stones, there's probably a slip in John Stones every now and then, isn't there? So I think
Stones has also had. Sorry to jump in on that.
Cool.
Stones has had Diaz next to him.
Mm.
He's been pretty solid. I don't think he's overwhelmed this season, but he's pretty consistent. You look at then Maguire, who's feels like he's on the edge of a sort of breakdown on the pitch. I think that could impact his form.
Mm.
And personally, on me, the Arsenal fans will hate me for saying this, but Ben White, despite your good form, I mean, look, I've put him in just to clarify, but I don't think he's not really stood out to me. If I said who's been phenomenal for Arsenal at the back, I'd probably lean more to Gabriel.
But then
I don't know if that's
you've been watching the wrong team. Gabriel has been.
I think it's in
Sometimes we'll go through there.
Saliba, I think, George.
Sorry, Salah. Yeah. Sorry.
But in terms of that, I think that's but you've not heard anything bad about him.
Yeah, if he goes unnoticed, you're doing something right.
If he's doing 7 or 8 out of 10 each week, that's what you want from a defender, kind of thing. He's not someone who's meant to, like, Saliba obviously gets more applauded because he's been scoring goals. White doesn't do that. White's not doing that, but that's not his job, kind of thing. So that's where I'd stick up for him. But I also do think he's not playing centre back for Arsenal, and that's my slight concern with him.
In this case, before we move on to the midfielders, what about Tomori? I know me and Jordan have included him. Does he get in, or he doesn't seem to get the attention because he seems to be playing abroad? But he's a title winner with AC Milan. He seems to be getting all the plaudits there. Does Tomori have a chance to start, or do you think he's going to be a substitute at best?
I'd say on form, to Jamie's point about Stones, I'd argue Tomori over the last year and a bit has been in better or equal form to what Stones has done, but because it's in Serie A, no one pays attention. AC Milan, many would argue, were not the best team in Italy last year, but they won the league, and Tomori was very well praised by all the pundits and fans alike. So with putting his performance against Chelsea in the Champions League and red card aside, he has been extremely consistent for almost over a year now. So based on form, actually, I would probably say Stones and Tomori are most deserving of a start. However, do I think Southgate will start him? Absolutely not. I don't believe he even got a chance in the Nations League games or the previous friendlies. So I think he should be included. Sadly, I don't see him starting. Even
How old is Tomori? Does anyone know roughly?
I don't know exactly, but very young.
21,
very young still.
21, yeah.
Yeah, he's not.
To be fair, I haven't put him in my sort of squad, but he's someone who definitely you can see him being there. And I do feel like he'll be a sub at best. And if he's coming on, it's because we are in a bit of trouble with defenders. I think his time will come in maybe the next World Cup. And it could be after Southgate, we don't know, obviously. That's when I think his time will come. I know it shouldn't mean anything, his age, but I do feel like that's something that will possibly not do him any favours for this.
Well, correction, he's 24, so he might be.
Okay.
I did see someone give a shout for Joe Gomez. I heard someone give him a shout. Personally, I think no, because he's never fit enough. But
I think if he was playing week in, week out for Liverpool, you'd have him in there. But he's been, Matip's what, 30 odd, I believe. And he's been, Matip's been putting him on the bench. So for me, I don't think he deserves a start. Even to be in there. Just one shout out. I just noticed I've got that you guys haven't. Again, I'm not saying he would start, but I think it's a good backup. Gurhey at Palace, we've praised him before on the show. Good form, got speed. Similar to Tomori, got speed, strength. I think he could be a good backup.
Ex-Chelsea players.
Nothing to do with that.
Absolutely nothing to do with it.
Not the Palace. Well, there you go. I think let's move on to midfield. I think we've covered everything there. So, any major disagreements? Well, we'll start with Phillips. So the City fans put Calvin Phillips in.
Yep.
I forgot he was even at City. Jamie, what we've all put Rice and Bellingham. I think they're obvious starts and well, they're obviously in the team. For me, they'd probably start. Talk to us about Phillips and why he's in.
So one, it does depend on if he's fit or not. That's whether he goes or not. That's just an obvious sort of one. It's more for, if you look at the other players, sort of like you've got in your list, both of you have picked Maddison. Maddison is more the attacking. Phillips is not that player. Phillips is more the sort of him or Bellingham. It'll be like one of them. I'm not saying he's going to start Phillips, but it's more you've got that replacement for him, or Phillips can play in Rice's position. It sort of gives the flexibility and the backup, whereas Maddison, you're going to see a few players both on our attacking list that do all the positions that Maddison can do. So that's where I'd rather have a Phillips in the squad than a Maddison. Like Maddison's been in great form, and his numbers actually, he arguably should be in this squad. Even he's not in mine, but arguably should be in it. I think Phillips is the one that, I don't know, I think it is just more the defensive side than the attacking. And I think, yeah, go on.
I was going to say you're very CDM heavy. Henderson, Ward-Prowse as well.
Well, Henderson is only in the squad for his leadership. I don't see him starting many games. I think he'll be good to bring on as a sub if we're winning in the game like 2-1, just to come in, calm things down. Ward-Prowse, I wouldn't say as a CDM. I'd say he's a bit more attacking than that. He'd once again be in the sort of same role as, say, Bellingham or Phillips was in the Euros. I think Ward-Prowse obviously has a very nice free kick set piece kind of if we do need it.
I think the queue for a set piece on the England team will be a mile long. I think of the players. Think of the players we've got. Kane.
And I think Ward-Prowse would be first.
Well, this is the thing, though, isn't it? Is this squad is blessed with versatility in that sense. Trippier. The reason I didn't take Ward-Prowse is because I don't think he offers much other than dead balls, set piece sort of situations. I think Trippier could do that. I think Dyer can do that. I think Kane can do that. So I think we've got the options there. I didn't choose Phillips personally because I don't think he'll be fit enough. And I think if we need to go defensive, you can move Dyer into the defensive mid position if you need to. So
I think that's where Dyer got caught out really, and that's why he's been pushed back into being a centre back. If we saw Dyer as centre back, centre defensive mid, we'd all be like, "What is going on?"
Whereas I just think add that extra option if needs be, and they don't have to take a player maybe just because he might be taking up someone else's spot, if that makes sense. But I do get the logic in taking Phillips. He's that safe option if you want to just see a game out, just put him straight on. He's a safe bet. I don't think he starts.
No, I agree with that. To be fair, I think we're all surprised when he started the Euros. But obviously, when he's come to City, he hasn't played much. Like I watched him for I think 15 minutes in a game, and he was pinging balls left, right, and centre. And you're like, okay, he could do something, and then he's injured again.
Wow.
That if he's injured, obviously he's not going, and maybe Maddison could be that replacement. But I think, we've got such the attacking options in the attackers that we'll show shortly. I
think Ward-Prowse, on that note, I just think similar to what you said, Reece, but Ward-Prowse for me, he's definitely not better than Mount and Maddison at attacking. And he's definitely not better than Rice and Bellingham at defending, and
But not
then
all of them
set
are
pieces.
starting 11 players, are
No,
they?
no, I agree. I just don't personally think he offers much added value. And set pieces. We've got Kane, we've got Trent, we've got Mount, we've got. I think they're the main three. Maddison as well. Not that he start, but yeah, I think we've got a very nice midfield.
And obviously, just to mention, I've got Henderson as captain there. I know you two have gone for an attacker. I went for Henderson just because he's a winner with Liverpool. He's won a Premier League, Champions League, League Cup, FA Cup while captain in the side. And I think with the players this young, I think starting him in quite a few games would really give them that balance and leadership that they need. Henderson can see the pitch up front and behind him as well, position on the pitch like that, so he can tell people where they need to be, etc. But I think he will be quite crucial for that captaincy because he is a proven winner, and I think he knows how to get things over the line if needs be.
Yeah, see,
does he start?
Yeah,
yes, that's the issue.
He should do, particularly against Wales.
He doesn't start for Liverpool because he's dropping off. He started,
but I think he should start against teams like Iran. I think he should start over Wales. I think Rice would be better against the United States. I think things like that. But I think as well, you're going to get someone on the touchline who's going to.
No, I agree with him being in the squad for that reason. I think he will also behind the scenes be that player. I just think the captain should be a person who's going to start majority of the games. Well, if not all of them. And especially in the heat that we're going to be in, Henderson's getting sort of like seen as someone towards the end of his career. I just don't see him starting any games. He'll come on, but starting, I think's too far out of it.
Yeah, and he's from Sunderland as well, so the heat will probably be too much for him. If it's over 15 degrees, I don't know. But yeah, anyway, let's move on to the attacking side of things then. So, again, England's blessed with players in the attacking front, and I think what's a good thing for Southgate, if he decides to be tactically flexible, is the amount of ways he could change the attack up if he needs to. Whether he wants to put 4 up there attacking, 2, 3. I think a lot of players offer differences for him. He can take someone on, bring someone off, and they'll offer something different to the game. I'm interested to hear what you guys have thought here, because as you can see, we do have slight differences in our attacking lineup. First things first, we're all in agreement that Kane will be the man leading the front.
Absolutely.
Yes,
no question.
He's also been on form this season. Like, obviously, people have been talking about Haaland, but you haven't realised he keeps scoring, just keeps going 1 goal a game kind of thing. He's ticking over quite nicely. Some are penalties, but that they all count. Got to remember that sort of. So I don't see anything but Kane starting up front, and that's probably why me and Jordan both have him captain.
Yeah,
just because he's one of the very few players that you can actually go is an absolute certain starter.
Yeah, I'd see in terms of like leadership. Obviously, he's more of a lead by example kind of guy. I see Pickford more as a hype man. I think he'd be a good backup captain to get the boys going a bit. But Kane, as he always has, is led from the front, led by example. And yeah, 100% he starts, and if he's fit, then yeah, no chance.
We're just picking out what we've got here then. I'm interested to see your reasons for this. Both you, Jordan and Jamie, have put Grealish and put Ivan Toney in your sort of 26-man squad. What's the reason behind those? Toney, I think we can understand why, but Grealish in particular, I know, has been criticised a lot. Why have you picked those two?
Well, I'll start with the Toney one. Toney's actually sort of, if you look at all the backup sort of strikers, which you've got a few of in yours, like Abraham, Wilson. Wilson's always injured. It's kind of, you can't have someone who's that injury prone, unfortunately. I think Toney's just been scoring goals, and obviously people thought, he hasn't got the creativity with Eriksen when he left, but he's still banging them in, and I think it's purely based on form he should go. But is he going to, the problem is, you're not going to have many that are starting over Kane. So that's where he's not. So this is where the Grealish pick comes in. I think he is picking it up for City now. He's starting to get some good sort of performance in, where like last season he wasn't. But I think it's sort of, we need the other players around, because Kane is going to be the sort of figurehead up top. So we don't need many other strikers. We need the players who are getting the ball into him, who can progress the ball. And I think Grealish probably the best progressor of the ball out of all the attackers. Like when he wants to, he will progress the ball much further up the pitch, win fouls and stuff like that. And I think that's definitely like needed at times. So that's where I'd say he's in the squad. Maybe not in the starting 11, but definitely in the squad.
Yeah, for me, on the striker front, so I was initially I had Tony and Abraham in, both for obvious reasons. But then I sort of sat there and thought, actually, Kane is going to play. Kane's 100% going to start every game if he's fit. He's probably going to play, 70 to 80 minutes. So it didn't make sense to have two backup strikers. And then I took my Chelsea hat off for a second and thought, based on purely this season, I mean, Abraham last year was sensational, by the way. And based on the form last season, he deserved to make the England squad. However, this season I'm going off. Tony at the minute is just a machine. He keeps scoring in a Brentford side that doesn't look particularly strong. Abraham, he's been all right this season, but Tony scored more. So for me, Tony deserves his proper first sort of big tournament call up. Grealish, similar. Definitely doesn't start for me, but in 40-degree heat, in a game where you need a goal in the 60th minute, the fans love him. Everyone's begging Southgate to get him on around the 60-minute mark. And as you said, he wins fouls, he drives forward, and that's perfect to do against a tight defence in 40-degree heat.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, personally, I didn't pick Grealish. I know I've said things about him in the past, but I didn't pick him because I don't see tactically what he offers differently to, say, Foden or Saka or even maybe Sancho and Sterling in this case. Like, I think if Southgate is 1-0 down, and he takes Foden off for Grealish, I don't see how that's going to make a difference. Whereas if he takes Foden off and brings on, I'll take Abraham, for example, I can see where there's a different approach there, or maybe it's a wrong example because they're two different players, but I just don't see where he tactically really will make that difference. I do agree. I think he's winning more fouls. He runs into the box more, so he can do that. But I think Sterling can offer that as well. So I think it's different there. The only reason I went for Abraham is because I think his height will be very useful. So from a tactical perspective, he can help bully some defenders a little bit more. I think a lot of those players won't like coming up against him. Callum Wilson, if he stays fit, he's a very big game player. I think he could be an option if you want to freshen things up, let Kane have a rest. It's good to see that we're not all in agreement with Rashford. Jordan, I'm intrigued to know why. I think Rashford's a good option, but why haven't you picked him?
Especially when you pick United,
Sancho over him.
United teammate.
Yeah, so again, it was a tough call between the two. My logic was more along the lines of what I said about Kane. I think, I know Rashford's played wide, but I personally think he suits the central role. He stepped up for United when he's played as a striker. And again, going back to my point, I don't think he gets above, obviously he doesn't get above Kane. And on form, I don't think he gets above Tony. So I see better value in bringing Sancho on, who's shown this season already in big games. He's finally finding his feet a bit. He has scored a few big goals. He looks sharp. I think he's just another good attacking option against a tight defence.
Is it not because Sancho has perhaps supported Chelsea in one stage of his life, Jordan, or he sat at the stadium before?
Absolutely.
Is that why you picked him?
If this was all about Chelsea, you'd have Abraham in my squad. You'd have Trevor Chalobah in defence, and
you'd still have Dennis Wise in there if you had him away.
What a player! What a player!
I don't know about the Sancho being on form. like over Rashford.
Right.
I think if you're picking a player out of them two who's been on more form, you'd say Rashford. But what I think Rashford would give that Sancho probably doesn't give, mainly from different positions. But if we decided to play two up top at one point, say Kane and Rashford, Kane can drop. Rashford's got that pace to run in behind, which Sancho won't have. Definitely not as much as what Rashford would. And Sancho's obviously more of a wide player anyway. So that's where I feel like he gives it more. Whereas Sancho, you've got Saka, you've got Foden, you've got Grealish. They're all on the wing. Sterling's going to be on one of the wings. So I just feel like a limited place for him to come in. Whereas it could be a whole tactical change putting Rashford in.
He's more likely to get you a goal, isn't he, as well, Rashford?
That's what I also think that too. If you need a goal, and he can score from the wing. I know Jordan, you've said he's probably better down the middle, and I probably do agree with that. But if Kane can do what he does with Son kind of thing, is he'll drop inside. You possibly could have Sterling and Rashford on the wings coming in with the pace. Then Kane can play him through, and then there'll be a bit more in the middle. But so that's why I'd pick Rashford over Sancho. And I think so far this season, Rashford's been better than Sancho too.
Fair. I think on that, personally, I don't see Southgate. I don't see Southgate going two up top. And I just think
it's more of a
chuck Tony on.
In the game kind of moment rather than a starting.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I think looking at the other positions, we seem to be in agreement with the others. We've all gone Saka. We've all gone Sterling. And we've all gone, Foden as well. I think they're the most probably banker ones to get in the squad. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. And finally, we got a minute or so left. Any notable mentions who you really think is a bit harsh they got left out that maybe none of us have covered at all? Bowen, he was on my list. Jared Bowen.
Bowen, no, I don't see what he offers different to what Sterling, etc., could offer. You know, like I said, if Southgate's up against it, he needs to bring someone on that's going to change the game. I don't see Bowen doing that, unfortunately. I just don't. I don't see it from him. He's a good player. But I just don't see, what difference he can make for the team.
I know this. Well, this isn't the forwards; it's in the defence. I did say to you two the other day, Tarkowski, and I just watched him for the Everton Spurs game, and I was just like, he's such a solid defender that he'll just put his life on the line, kind of thing. He's old school, and I'm surprised he hasn't got actually as many caps, considering I don't think we've been that blessed with centre backs, but when you are playing for teams that aren't the big six, you do get overlooked, I think.
Well, don't Everton have the best defence in the league or something? So he's got to have played
a role
in that, hasn't he?
That's only this season.
Yeah. But he's still been outstanding, I think. He's a guaranteed 7 out of 10 every game, isn't he? I think you're right. He's an option. I think if it's going to be between him or Cody, though, that level player, I think we'd probably take Cody.
I think he's a good choice.
But it's more of a left wing pick kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a very good choice.
I think what would be more of an interesting question to end on: who is your front three?
So,
I think this is tough.
I went for
this is very tough
originally, but
let's say front three to make it difficult. I'm going to go Kane in the middle, Sterling on the left.
He's going to say it. He's going to say it, isn't he?
Saka on the right.
Oh, not.
Who do you think I was saying?
I thought Mount was coming in here.
No, Mount can be CAM behind in the middle. Never going to leave my boy out, but yeah, Saka over Foden. That's harsh, but that's a coin flip.
Yeah, I think Kane up front, Sterling on the left, Saka on the right. But I said Foden would be that centre attack role. And he can drift if he wants to. He can take Sterling's position, etc., however he feels.
Interesting. I think, I'm looking at it through. Kane's up top. that's sort of a given. I've always been, when Sterling was at City, I still think Sterling is a better player on the right. So I would play him on the right and I'd have Foden on the left. That's how I would play as the front three. I think Sterling's much better when he can just drive forward and then cross it in. Whereas he scores more goals when he cuts inside from the left. But I feel like he can be much better to feed Kane coming from the right and be a bit more dangerous where defenders are trying to tackle him and it's hard with his pace. And then I put Foden on the left. I think this season Foden has been better than Saka, but I'm not saying by a country mile or anything like that. But for England, Saka has been better than Foden. And there's not much argument against that. Apart from, the penalty miss, which is what matters. But
we can't hold that against him.
Oh, you can. You definitely
Plenty
can.
of people did. Plenty of people did.
Yeah, for wrong reasons.
Fair play. We got to respect Saka for stepping up. But that just about wraps us up for another episode. There is plenty to agree with, plenty to disagree with. Our 26-man squads are now complete. Gareth, it's over to you.